What's up, everyone? This is Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. So I respectfully waited until Brian and Carrie gave me the official go-ahead to go ahead and make a video about the results of the Shaw Classic. But I just want to say it was a phenomenal show. Very well done. I definitely think if they can build this into something that they're going to do every year, it's really going to take off, and I think it can easily become something, similar to World's Strongest Man, similar to Arnold Classic. I think Brian has a wonderful idea with this, and Carrie, obviously, he's not doing it by himself. But yeah, loved the show, phenomenally done, really great. So with that, I think just looking at the Shaw Classic compared to World's Strongest Man or Arnold Classic, there's a couple things that I noticed that were very unique. For one, with the Shaw Classic, it's at altitude. It's way up high, and you really notice that with a lot of the athletes, how they weren't used to the altitude. And I can talk about that a little bit later. But also, it was really fun seeing it because it's in Brian's home gym. And obviously, Brian's home gym is very different than your home gym or my home gym. He's put a lot of money into it. He's really developed it into something where, four-time World's Strongest Man can train. And so it's really a phenomenal gym. But it really added that little bit extra to the event, where with World's Strongest Man, with Arnold Classic, it's very up there. With the way that they organize it, the way that they run it, it makes it seem kind of unattainable. Something where, it's just unattainable, I guess is a good word. Whereas the way Brian ran it, it seemed it's a small group, close knit in the garage. It just looked fun. It looked like something where, okay, you can go, you can do this, friendly rivalries. It had a really good atmosphere to the event, and so I'm really hoping that this is something that they can do every year, hopefully. And if you haven't watched it yet, I won't post any footage here, but if you haven't watched it yet, please sign up to the Shaw Elite Club. I'll put a link down below. Make sure that you sign up to it and watch it there. The money that they're getting from that will go towards future shows and go towards the athletes and all that sort of stuff. So definitely, if you have a chance, support them in any way possible. So my predictions from my earlier video, I figured that Brian was going to win, and then I thought probably Novikov was going to come in second, and Luke Stolman or Jerry Pritchett would take third. Novikov, obviously just coming off of winning World's Strongest Man, has really, really solid performance at World's Strongest Man. So I assumed he was going to at least podium. He was going to be up there, if not win it all. Luke as well. Luke has been developing into a really fantastic strongman, very well-rounded. And then Brian, home gym advantage, he trains at altitude, so it won't be as much of a shock to him as to some of the other athletes. So he has a little bit more of that advantage going on. But also Brian's he's solid. He's older, he's not as fast as he used to be. He doesn't go out and try and win every single event like he used to. He's much more strategic, I feel, and he's less likely to take chances with some of the events as well. But still, absolutely solid performer, and so I assumed that those three were going to be on the podium. So the actual placings were Brian won overall. Brian got first. JF actually got second. I was not not expecting that. I assumed JF was probably going to be, middle of the pack maybe. But he actually got second, and he looked really solid in the event. I was surprised at that. But yeah, he's been in it for a while. He's been in the game for a while. It seems like every year he just keeps getting better and better. So he is definitely something that you want to watch for the next little bit. And then Alexei Novikov ends up getting third. And yeah, like I said, I assumed he was going to be on the podium at least, and he looked solid. There were a couple things that he struggled with that I didn't expect him to. I thought he was going to do better, but same with all the athletes. And obviously, part of it was the altitude. Part of it is World's Strongest Man was only a couple weeks ago, so they're still recovering from that. They're still trying to come back from that peak. And then fourth was actually Trey Mitchell, and this is one that I did not see at all. I figured Trey wasn't going to be last place, but Trey Mitchell, there were several events that he did far better than I was expecting, and he's really developing into a good strongman. He's really been working on his weak points. He's getting better rounded, just with everything, and he's someone that you'll want to keep an eye on because he's young enough where he can still be in the game for quite a while, similar to Novikov. Similar to Luke Stoltman and Tom as well. Tom's another one. So similar to some of these other ones, Trey's going to be around hopefully for several years in strongman. So that was kind of fun to watch. And then Jerry ended up getting 5th overall. And Jerry was leading for a while. And I'll go into that a little bit more with some of the events. Some of the events he really struggled with that I didn't expect him to struggle with. So yeah, that was a little disappointing because Jerry's always been a really solid strongman. He's been very well rounded. Some events he's definitely better than at others. Fifth still is a good placing. Obviously, you want first or at least podium, but yeah. So anyways, and then Adam Bishop got 6th. I expected him. Same with Jerry. There were some events that I expected him to do better with that he didn't. And then there were some events that he's really shown that he knows what he's doing. Luke Stoltman ended up getting 7th. Same thing. There were several events that I expected him to do really well with that he ended up really struggling with. And then Maxime Boudreau got 8th. Kevin Ferris got 9, and then Terry Hollins got 10th. Terry ended up pulling out about halfway through, pulling out of the competition. I'm not entirely sure what all's going on with him. Apparently he has an injury that he wanted to protect, didn't want to risk making it worse. So that's too bad for Terry. I was really looking forward to Terry doing well. Terry did really well in the heat in World's Strongest Man, and then barely ended up losing in the stones, and so he didn't make it into the finals. But Terry's been in the game for a long time. He knows what he's doing. He's a solid athlete as well. So it was overall really phenomenal contest, very close. A lot of the events were way closer than what you would expect, and a lot of the placings don't necessarily show that. But it was a tough competition, and hats off to everybody who competed because it was very well done, very entertaining. So the first event was the log, and obviously Luke Stoltman won it. He's really established himself as kind of the king of the log, I guess, a little bit. Obviously there's some others, Graham Hicks and stuff, that are up there as well, but Luke's really set himself up as a phenomenal log lifter, which has really been really good because a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would not have said log was his strong point, but in the last year and a half, 2 years or so, he's really put a lot of effort into log, and he's really he's gotten phenomenal at log. So I don't remember the exact weights, and I didn't write them down, but I think there were several guys that got over 400 pounds on the log, which is really heavy for any sort of competition. So it was really fun to see that, and to see a lot of these guys do so well. So Luke got first. Brian and Trey were both tied for, and Maxime Boudreau. Let me see. They were all tied. Um, yeah, Trey. I didn't expect Trey to do as well with the log, but he really, really did well. He really, yeah, to tie with Brian. I was really surprised at that, but great, great competition with that. Great effort. Obviously Brian's been doing log for a while. He's always been a pretty decent. He's not the best out there, but he's a good log lifter. Trey is looking really good. He's really growing a lot. Maxime as well. And then Kevin and Jerry were tied for 5th place. And then Alexi and JF were tied for 7th. I expected Alexi to do a little bit better. Yeah, I was a little surprised that he didn't quite do as well. But to start off getting 3.5 points and to finish in 3rd is a really good comeback. And then Adam Bishop got 9th, and Terry Hollins was not able to get any reps. He ended up getting 0 points on that, so he came in at 10th. Like I said, it was too bad to see Terry. He great effort, but you could tell he was not 100%. So hopefully he'll go home, he'll heal up, and hopefully we'll see him come back stronger and better than ever. But overall, log lift, it was, phenomenal event, very well done. So the second event was the super yoke, and Alexi ended up winning this. Alexi looked really good with this one, and JF came in second. I was not expecting him to be that fast, but he did a really good job, and it was a 500 kilogram yoke, so just over 1,100 pounds. So very heavy. That's a lot of weight to be sitting on your shoulders and try and run. I think it was 60 feet, something like that. So it's down and back, but really well done. Alexi was very fast with it. JF was really fast. Brian came in at 3rd. Jerry came in at 4th, which I was kind of expecting them to be right there. Trey came in at 5th, and he's pretty fast on his feet. And then Bishop came in 6th. Luke Stoltman came in 7th. Terry came in at 8th, and I expected Terry to do a bit better. He, with his background with rugby and everything else, I expected him to. He's usually really good at the moving events, and so you could tell that he was hurt. There was something going on. He just wasn't 100%. And then Kevin Ferris came in 9th, and Maxime Boudreau came in 10th. Was the Farmer's Frame medley. This one was extremely tough. A lot of guys were not able to finish it. So they started with, it was 360 each hand and then 380 each hand. And then the final was a frame, and it was an 880 pound frame. So very brutal. Not a long distance. I think it was 20 feet, something like that. So it's not that far, but the farmer's handles is the ones where the grips are inside the actual farmer's handle there. And so they hold kind of high, and so they're banging into your legs and everything else. And you could see that was a little bit unsettling to some of the guys to have that. A lot of the guys would do the first 2 sets and then get to the frame, and they'd get a couple feet over the line, and that's it. Barely start it. So it was really interesting. There were several guys that were able to finish it. So Jerry Pritchett ended up getting 1st on that, and then Maxime Boudreau got 2nd, which Maxime, he looked really solid at that. I was surprised. But yeah, really impressed with him. And then Kevin Ferris got 3rd in that. So that was really interesting too, because both of them out of the gate came through and just blasted through and finished it and got pretty decent times. And so it's a little bit unsettling to see that and think, oh, like maybe it's not as heavy. And then you see a lot of these other guys like Adam Bishop and Alexei Novikov and stuff who can't finish. and you know that they're solid, that this is a good event for them. And they can't cross the finish line. So then they mark off the distance, how far they're able to go, and the time that they got that distance, basically. So very interesting, but really, really exciting to watch. It's a brutal event, because the first time you grab the handle, it's pulling on your hands right here, and so the first time you grab it, it digs in, and then when you let go, your hand kind of relaxes, and when you immediately try and grab again, your hand doesn't really want to. And so when you do that 3 times, by the third time, your hand just doesn't want to hang on anymore. And I've done this before, obviously not with this weight, but I've done farmer's carries like that, where you set them down, re-grab, and go again with a heavy weight like that in each hand. And it's almost easier just to go for distance and just hang on for dear life. Whenever you're letting go and resetting and grabbing again, your hands just don't like that. It's extremely uncomfortable. So, yeah, Jerry first, Maxime, Kevin, Brian got fourth, JF got fifth, Adam Bishop got sixth, Alexei Novikov got seventh, Luke Stoltman got eighth, Terry Hollins got ninth, and Trey Mitchell finished last. I was after seeing Trey do fairly well the first 2 events, I was expecting him to do a little bit better, but obviously these are all world-class competitors, and you're training at altitude and everything else, and so it's that's one of the things I love about strongman, is everything is up for grabs. Every event, it can shift every single time. So overall, that was a ton of fun to watch. So that was all day one. The first 3 events were day one down at Brian's home gym, which is still up at a very high altitude. And then from there, they went up the mountain and they went to the mountain gym, which is at a much higher altitude. So if you're already struggling with altitude at the lower gym, going up to the mountain, you're going to be struggling a lot more because it's much higher altitude. First event of the day was the Hummer Tire deadlift. And obviously, I assumed that JF and Jerry were going to probably win this. They're both phenomenal deadlifters. Hummer tires, it's a little bit different because of the way that the weights come off the ground and everything. So it just feels different in the hands. It's just a different movement. But yeah, JF ended up winning that, and he looked phenomenal. He made it look incredibly easy, which is not fair. Okay. And then Jerry Pritchett ended up getting second. And Jerry, for the last one, he missed it, and then he right away went a second time and missed it again. And I think he spent so much energy on that it really hurt his later events. Because at the end of the Hummer Tire deadlift, he was in first place by 3 points. So it's a high enough scoring where he could possibly maintain that momentum to some extent. But I think he gassed himself, and he didn't. I don't know if he was mentally fatigued or physically fatigued, or if it was the altitude or what. But the later events, he didn't look himself after that. But overall, phenomenal effort on the Hummer Tire deadlift. And then Adam Bishop got third, which I was expecting. Bishop's really become a solid deadlifter. He won Britain's Strongest Man, I think, with the deadlift. He's really starting to establish himself as that's one of his strong suits. So I expected Bishop was probably going to do fairly well with this. Trey Mitchell ended up coming in fourth, which really phenomenal output. I forget what his final weight was, but I think it was over 1,000 pounds. So Trey, like I said, Trey's really turning into a fantastic strongman. Definitely something you want to keep your eye on. Brian came in fifth, and he tied with Alexei. He said that he kind of hurt his back on this one. So he ended up pulling out a little bit. He ended up stopping a little bit early. And then Alexei too, failed his next attempt. Alexi's at a little bit of a disadvantage because I mean some of these competitors are twice his size, it seems like. So he's not a large man, but he's an extremely powerful man, extremely strong. So it'll be interesting to see where all Alexi goes from here. There's some events that he can definitely get a little bit better at, but overall he's turning into a phenomenally well-rounded strongman. Kevin Ferris got 7th. Luke got 8th. I was expecting Luke to do better. He's done really well in the gym and in some other competitions. He has a decent deadlift, so I was expecting him to place higher than this. Could be, like I said, there's so many unknown factors. They just finished Worlds a couple weeks ago. The altitude, you've heard it all before. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from this as well. But yeah, and then Maxime Boudreau, 9th, and then Terry Hollins he had pulled out of the competition. So overall, Hummer tire deadlift was phenomenal. I definitely want to see more of these in contests again. It's just fun to watch. It's a slightly higher deadlift than a standard deadlift. It's about 15 inches. And they had set the rules, no suits, no figure 8 straps. So they're mimicking the world record attempt set by Zydrunas as much as possible, and I think that really showed a lot. I think some of the guys are definitely more accustomed to deadlifting in a suit, and so when you pull that away, you could see that they were struggling a little bit more, but. Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was fantastic. And JF finishing, he broke the world record. And even doing the world record, it looked pretty easy for him. I would not be surprised if he sets it another 20, 40 pounds heavier. He is really turning into a phenomenal deadlifter. So I'm really excited to see where all JF's going to go with the deadlift in the future as well. So the second event at the Mountain Gym, 5th event overall, was the circus dumbbell. And well, I'll start at the bottom. So Terry Hollins had pulled out, so Maxime I think went first. Maxime, and I thought he got 2 reps, but maybe he only got 1. But it's a heavy dumbbell, and the circus dumbbell was a really interesting event to watch because you could tell as soon as they were 1 or 2 reps in, everyone was breathing extremely hard. It's lifting at altitude, moving heavy weights at altitude like that just gasses you like nothing else. So that was really interesting to see. A lot of these guys that you would expect to do better ended up only getting 2 or 3 reps. So yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. I think Maxime got 1 rep. Kevin Ferris, Trey, and Luke all got 2 reps, I believe. Jerry Pritchett was unable to get any reps, and this is where Jerry kind of started to fall apart, I think, or not fall apart, but you could tell that he had overworked something in the deadlift. He was not performing like himself, and Jerry's usually a really solid performer. Circus dumbbell isn't necessarily his favorite or his best event or anything like that, but I would expect, at least 2 or 3 reps out of him. So I think he just he was hurting at this point. So yeah, that was too bad to watch. Adam Bishop ended up getting 3 reps, and JF got 4. It was fun to watch JF as well because he was very methodical. He knew he had to get the 4 reps, and that was it. And so that was what he set out to do, and that's what he did. And you could tell he paced himself. He did it appropriately. And then Alexi ended up getting 1st, and Brian ended up getting 2nd. They were really fun to watch. Alexi got the extra rep a little bit earlier on, I think 3rd or 4th rep in, something like that. He was able to pull 1 ahead of Brian, and then they just kept the same pace, basically. And so he maintained that lead to guarantee that 1st place finish. I think Alexi got 8, and Brian got 7 reps. But overall, super fun to watch. That was really fun. I love watching the head-to-head competitions like that. So the head-to-head circus dumbbell or Viking press or anything like that. It's always just fun and exciting to watch, because you're not only competing against the guy next to you, but you're competing against all the other people in the field. And so if you're going early on, you don't know how everyone else is going to go. And so you're trying to set that momentum and set that standard high, which is hard to do, because you want to set it high enough where you can have a decent score, but not completely burn out. So if you're able to go later on in the event, obviously it's a little bit easier, because if you know you're standing, you can know what you can try and place and how you can finish from there. So that was a ton of fun. That was really exciting. And then the final event was the Atlas Stones, and it was a 6-stone run, which not a lot of guys finished. I think there were 3 guys that finished total. Yeah, it was pretty brutal, because you could see these guys. Luke, for one, is usually a really good stone lifter, and you could tell it was at the end of the contest, for one thing. So if you know that you're already not doing well in the contest, there's no reason to completely destroy yourself trying to get 8th place instead of 9th in the overall standings. So there's a little bit of that going on, but also there's 6 stones and they're heavy, and like I talked about with the circus dumbbell too, you do the first 1 or 2 reps and then your body is just gassed, it's out of oxygen, and so you could see a lot of these guys were really struggling. They'd get to the 3rd or 4th stone and then they'd just be gassed and they'd be struggling to try and get the next one. Let's see. Jerry ends up getting 9th place. Kevin Ferris ended up getting 8th. Adam Bishop got 7th. Maxime Boudreau got 6th. Luke got 5th. I was expecting Luke to do a little bit better, but overall not bad. Alexei Novikov got 4th. JF ended up getting 3rd. JF really, he blasted through, and he actually, stones aren't necessarily his strong point, so it was really fun seeing him do that well on them. Trey Mitchell got 2nd, which, like I said, Trey Mitchell is turning into a phenomenal strongman. He's brand new to the game. He's just starting, so I'm really excited. I think in another 2 years or so, Trey will be a serious contender. Even right now, he finished 4th overall, and he finished high up in a lot of events. And then Brian ended up winning the stones. And by the time Brian had to go, you could tell he just had to get all 6 stones and he would win the overall. And so you could tell he did that. He just kind of paced himself, finished it through, blasted through the first 3 or 4, and then paced himself for the last couple to make sure he didn't make any mistakes. And overall, yeah, fantastic show by all of them. So overall, amazing show. Absolutely loved it. There's a couple things. A couple things that I would potentially change. I think Magnus, for one, he's an amazing judge, amazing referee. I don't know if he's necessarily the best commentator. I think Kaz is generally a little bit of a better commentator. I love Magnus. I love watching him. But he's I feel like Kaz usually has more of the input, more of the comments coming up that the viewers want to hear, want to see. So definitely bring both of them back. It'd be awesome if they could bring Kaz in as well, because everybody loves Kaz. But so maybe change that a little bit. Like I said, I love the gym feel. They're all lifting in the gym and everything together, so it's a very small atmosphere. I'd say, if anything, definitely stay with that setup, and then have the link to the Shaw Elite Club, and people can pay to watch it in their own time. I think that was a wonderful setup where you know, they'd post the video from, you know, they posted the video from day 1 on day 2, and then they posted the day 2 video on day 3. And so they just compiled it into an hour-long video or so. And it's great because you can start it and stop it whenever you want. You can go, you know, make yourself some lunch or whatever, and then come back and finish it. So with the live stream, you have to sit there the entire time, make sure you don't miss anything. So doing it this way, I loved this format. It was great because you feel like you're actually getting your money's worth. So if you're actually paying the $8.99 to watch it, then you're actually getting that $8.99 because you actually get to watch the entire thing. And if there were a couple of the lifts where I was like, oh man, I want to watch that again, so I can rewind it and watch it again. So love the format. I would love it if World's Strongest Man and everything, or Arnold, would try and do something similar. Arnold Classic is a little bit different because, you know, usually they have 10,000 people in the audience watching it, and so if they don't live stream it, then people might not watch it anyways because they're going to see it all over Instagram and Facebook and everything else. So a little bit different with Arnold Classic maybe, but World's Strongest Man, I think it would be fantastic if they could get something like this set up. Yeah, love the small feel of it. It just seemed like it was a really fun atmosphere. Everybody's right there, all the athletes and everything are right there. They're all just having a blast. It'd be fun if they could get more of the chit chat and stuff too, more of the sideline stuff. What are other people doing during it all? But it was nice because they cut out all the dead space. They cut out all the weight changes and all the, you know, 20 minutes between, you know, Luke going this time and then Luke going again. So, you know, you can just watch each lift and watch it go through that way. I also loved that it was at altitude. They don't have... Usually most of the strongman events are, you know, on a beach in Florida or in, you know, something like that. And it's really cool that Brian's kind of mixing up because you can do strongman anywhere. And I feel like that's part of what I love about strongman is that it's not standard. You use funny weights. I mean, they're sitting there picking up rocks, you know, stones, Atlas stones. And so that's one of the things I love about strongman, and maybe we'll do a video about that later too. But it's just different. It's, you know, none of the contests are the same, and that's I think that's something that Brian has kind of accentuated a little bit doing this show. So that's something that I really hope will stay that way. Obviously, you know, Brian and Carrie put in a lot of money and a lot of time and effort into this. I'm not sure if Brian wants to keep trying to plan everything and competing, or if he's, now that they have it kind of set up, if he's able to hand that off a little bit and keep competing, or if he's going to retire from competing and just do this full time. I don't know what Brian's plans are, but overall, fantastic show. If you haven't watched it yet, highly recommend that you go to the Shaw Elite Club, look it up, and watch it. Pay the $8.99, and then you can cancel after a month if you don't want to stay a member of it. But overall, the Shaw Elite Club, they have a really fun community. I've been talking to a lot of people on there and stuff, and it's a super fun, smaller community. And Brian does a really good job of including all sorts of interesting information for people as well. So if you haven't done that yet, look into it. And until next time, just remember to always improve that 1%, and comment down below. Let me know what you liked about each event, what you liked about the show, what you didn't like, maybe what you think they should improve on. And who knows, maybe Brian and Carrie will watch this video someday and take some pointers. But anyways, that's all for today. Just have a good one, and yeah, like I said, try and remember to always improve that 1%.